When God stops warning, he starts warring. And by the time he moves, it's too late to apologize. Let that simmer, because what I'm about to tell you isn't just a story of revenge. It's divine retaliation served on a surgical table, not a silver platter. Here's a fact. In the Bible, Pharaoh didn't get sick when he first disobeyed God. No, he got comfortable. He thought the silence from heaven meant approval. But by the 10th plague, even his gods were scared to speak. Sound familiar? You gave them mercy. You gave them silence. You gave them every opportunity to back off. But they took your peace as passivity. They confused your humility for helplessness. And above all, they forgot who you belonged to. They poked the lion thinking it was asleep. Now God has stood up, and he's not in a forgiving mood. There's a sickness creeping through their life. And no, this isn't just about sniffles and fevers. This is divine judgment disguised as health failure, financial rot, and mental collapse. This is what happens when someone keeps running red lights in the spirit. Eventually, heaven pulls them over. And it's not with flashing lights, it's with flashing symptoms. And while some of you all are still praying for your enemies, God said, I'm not. I'm diagnosing them. So sit tight, grab your tea, or holy water if you're fancy. Because this story right here, it's not just spiritual warfare. It's spiritual ICU. Let's talk about it. Number 1, God allowed them to mock you publicly so he could curse them publicly. No shadow will hide their downfall. They dragged your name through the dirt, laughed at your pain, and threw your truth into the gutter. And the whole time, they thought they were untouchable. They believed no one was watching, that you were weak, that God was distant or maybe didn't care. But what they didn't realize is that God allowed it. He watched them mock, gossip, and tear you down. Not because he was powerless, but because he was building a case. He let the attacks happen so there'd be no confusion when judgment hit. No denials, no excuses, just consequences. You see, when they embarrassed you publicly, they were sowing publicly. When they humiliated you in front of others, they were writing their own sentence in front of the same crowd. And now that God has acted, there's no shadow for them to hide in. Their downfall won't be private. It will be just as loud as their disrespect. Because heaven doesn't let someone touch a chosen one and walk away untouched. They had every chance to stop. Every moment of your silence was a warning. Every time you didn't clap back, it was mercy extended. But they kept pressing, kept testing, kept laughing, not knowing that God was collecting evidence, and when he strikes, it's never vague. He doesn't swing wildly. He hits exactly where it hurts, and when he does it, he makes sure the ones who watched your suffering also witness your vindication. Now that judgment has landed, people are starting to whisper, but not about you anymore. Now it's about them. The ones who swore they'd never pay for what they did. The ones who thought grace had no expiration date. They thought they had time to repent. They thought God would stay quiet forever. But he didn't. And now the sickness, whatever form it's taken, is the stamp. It's God saying, I was quiet, not absent, and now I've spoken, loudly. They laughed in public. God answered in public. Number 2, they didn't just touch you. They trespassed against divine territory. They didn't just offend you. They violated a boundary they couldn't see. They thought they were just attacking a person, but they were actually stepping onto holy ground. That's where they messed up. You weren't just another target. You're marked, chosen. And when someone touches a chosen one, they're not just being cruel. They're trespassing on divine territory. They entered a spiritual zone where only God has authority, and he doesn't take that lightly. People think they can treat everyone the same, but the truth is, there are certain people you don't mess with, not because they'll retaliate, but because God will. There are people walking this earth who carry heaven's backing. You're one of them. You weren't elevated by popularity, power, or connections. You were elevated by pain, process, and God's own hand. That makes you different, untouchable by natural standards, covered by something that can't be bought or faked. When they plotted against you, lied on you, tried to sabotage your name or your path, they were playing with something far bigger than you. They were playing with God's property. And just like someone breaking into a government building can't plead ignorance, they can't either. The spiritual laws don't bend just because someone didn't know who you were. Ignorance won't protect them from consequence. The sickness that's hit their life isn't random. It's not bad luck. It's not just stress or genetics or coincidence. It's what happens when someone crosses a divine boundary and refuses to turn back.